Hi everybody, this is Agnes from Sediment, and today let's debunk wine storage myths and ensure that your wines are stored properly. The wine world is filled with numerous myths, misconceptions, and semi-truths. Even a seemingly simple topic like wine storage, whether for its further development or simply holding it for consumption later, is no exception. With wine becoming more and more expensive, especially those bottles we want to store for opening later, why not put an end to all those myths and store your wines properly? Let's start! And by the way, this video is sponsored by Vina, more on them later. Before I begin, a disclaimer. If you are choosing a wine fridge that will serve as a cabinet to keep wine at your desired service temperature, it is completely fine to look for one with two sections with separate temperature control. That's what it's made for. However, if you are looking for a wine fridge to store your wines for a long period, even with potential for them to develop, you do not need several temperatures. Why? Because all wines, red, white, sweet, and sparkling wines can be aged in the same temperature, which is between 10 to 15 degrees Celsius. I also wouldn't be too nervous if my wines were stored at 16 or even 17 degrees, as long as the temperature is stable. This naturally makes your regular fridge or any shelf in your kitchen a bad place for wine storage. And while we are on this subject, let's talk a bit more about potential challenges of storing wine in these less than ideal environments. The temperature of regular fridge is closer to 2 to 5 degrees Celsius, and while I have met winemakers who do keep their own wine collection as low as 4 degrees, it is not ideal for wine's development or the elasticity of the cork. And let's be honest, sometimes we have some very smelly things stored in fridges as well, and those could also impact the wine. Likewise, a simple shelf in the kitchen or really any other room would expose wine to unnecessary temperature fluctuations. And that can sometimes cause extraction of the cork, leakage, and premature oxidation. Another disclaimer is needed here. Of course, light is necessary when you open the fridge and want to find your precious bottle to enjoy this very evening. You also need light to not stumble or fall when you are entering the cellar or any storage area. All of that is fine. However, some wine storages and fridges have built-in lights to showcase your Cristal, Dom Perignon, and Petrus bottles. It's all fun games and show-offs until those bottles are opened up, just to realize that all of them have unpleasant and quite pungent nose. I am surprised how rarely we talk about the bad influence of light on wine, and even some winemakers are to blame. Those who choose to bottle their wines in transparent glass, which offers no protection to the wine. I really wish to see more pink wines in dark-colored bottles. Furthermore, when you are shopping, I would stay away from choosing wine from shelves that are next to the window. Too many times I have experienced light-damaged wines, and the most susceptible to it are white and pink wines, as well as bottle-fermented sparkling wines. Therefore, make sure to not remove the foil wrap from the Cristal if it is meant for cellaring. And let's be honest, in the current energy crisis, who really wants to pay extra for that spotlight for wine that it really doesn't need? Keep your champagnes in the upright position. Yes, you heard me correctly. There will rarely be any wine enthusiast who has not heard about the fact that wines must be stored horizontally, because the natural cork must be kept moist. And indeed, that is absolutely correct. I keep all my wines on the side, but there is one issue. Cork is a natural product, and sometimes it can be infected with trichloroanisole, commonly referred to as TCA, and this component can affect wine as well. Wine will usually gain off aromas such as wet wood, wet cardboard, or old and dirty cellar, and most importantly, mute the fruit flavors, and is typically referred to as corked wine. But when it comes to sparkling wines, due to the presence of CO2, the cork is kept moist enough to not dry out, even if the bottles are stored in the upright position. And limiting contact with the cork can mean reduced pickup of the TCA if the cork is infected. Now, those of you commenting that winemakers do not keep their champagnes in the upright position, therefore I will not either, it is completely your call. However, winemakers are dealing with tens of thousands or even millions of bottles, and it is really impractical to store them all in an upright position. Therefore, it makes more sense for them to store wines horizontally. We tend to have way fewer bottles in our cellars, and while I still cannot store all my champagnes vertically, I also don't have enough space, but those most expensive and dearest bottles I will have stored vertically. Hey wine enthusiasts! Today I've got something really exciting for you. Imagine blending your wine passion with smart investing. That's exactly what Venezia offers, a seamless fusion of both. With Venezia, only top-tier wines are sourced directly from renowned wineries by expert sommeliers, becoming more than a collection. They're your investment, safeguarded and authenticated using blockchain technology. How does it work? Venezia transforms your wine into digital asset, ensuring unmatched security, transparency, and real-time tracking of your asset's storage conditions. It's not just about investing. It's about appreciating your wine journey and generating an additional emotional return while you sit back and enjoy a glass of your favorite wine. So if you're keen to make your wine passion fruitful, hop over to Venezia.com to turn your love for wine into your next smart investment. You absolutely can age your screw cup wines. Nowadays, we see more and more premium wines sealed under the screw cup, and there might be many reasons behind it. Winemakers might choose them because of their price, consistency, and availability. And while some wines that are bottled under the screw cup are made for immediate consumption and definitely should not be aged for years, the reason behind it is not the screw cup, but how the wine is made. Therefore, if the wine has capacity to stand the test of time, the screw cup it is sealed under will not interfere with it. Let's just look at Hill of Grace by the Australian producer Henschke. Not many will argue that it cannot age, and yet it is sealed under the screw cup. If anything, some winemakers argue that it retains the wine's fruit better than the natural cork without the risk of contamination with TCA. For those who argue that wine does need minuscule amount of oxygen for developing its true potential, there are screw cups that are designed with adjustable oxygen transmission rates, and winemaker can choose a specific closure for each of their wines. Therefore, before deeming your wine under the screw cup for immediate consumption, make sure it is not one of those great wines that can develop beautifully with age. Magnum is a perfect size for aging wine, but it is not that bigger is better. Yes, you will often hear that Magnum size bottle, which is 1.5 liters, is the perfect size for cellaring your wine, especially if it is champagne, and there is science to it. The reason behind it is that the next size for a Magnum and a regular bottle are the same, and the same cork size is used. That means that the same amount of oxygen is entering these bottles, but the Magnum size has twice the wine, therefore it will develop slower. This is also the reason why demi bottles with a size of 0.375 liters will usually develop faster, because they have the same cork size as the regular or Magnum bottles. And many who know that Magnum is a great size for aging will naturally assume that bigger is better and expect that Jeroboam and Nebuchadnezzar will age even better. But that is not the case, because these sizes will have completely different cork size and ouillage level. And especially important for champagne, I think, is that these ultra-large bottles are usually filled from several smaller volume bottles, and wine does not go through the second fermentation in the same bottle, as is the case with regular and Magnum size. So yes, Magnum is a perfect size for aging your wine, but as we progress with bottle sizes, the aging capacity and quality not necessarily increases. What is true though is that smaller sized bottles will be more sensitive to temperature fluctuations than larger sized ones, and here we can actually look at some sort of mathematical progression. Cheers and thank you, and maybe share in the comments some of your wine storage fails or adventures. And you definitely must watch my next video on 6 essential tips on building your perfect wine collection.